I don't normally buy furniture that has been painted, and especially I don't buy it with enamel that's been painted on it, because I've never actually made over a piece that has been painted with enamel, because I just think it would be too hard. I really never knew how to go about doing it, and I had this piece for a few years. I actually brought it outside to get rid of it, and I thought, no, I'm going to challenge myself, figure out how to paint over enamel. It's in a pretty bad way, this piece, and the paint was really slapped on, but I'm going to be making this over today. I hope you join me. Hi, it's Danny here from Our Humble Home. I decided what I wanted to do with this, though, was to expose the wood, so I wanted to sand back the top, which is what I normally do. Probably, maybe I should have got some paint stripper. It may have been easier. I started with a 60 grit and ended up early on going to a 40 grit, which I've never used on timber before, and you probably, I don't know whether you should, but this enamel was so thick and shiny and hard. I just wanted to get through it, and it did get through it pretty easily as well. Obviously this is sped up, but it still did take a little bit of time actually, but it wasn't too bad. I kept going with that, so I sanded the top back and the sides of the top. And I also wanted to sand the front of the drawer back as well, and the legs, but there were a few pieces on the top that were a bit stubborn. They did come off eventually. I just had to sort of persist with them. So this is what it was like after I sanded all the paint off, but it did have marks, and it looks like it may have been stained underneath the paint at some point, so I had to sand that back. But yeah, that's the legs that are sanded, and I did also sand back the front of the drawer, and this is what the top looked like after I'd finished sanding it. It was beautiful light coloured timber, and I was really pleased with that. But now's the time to tackle the enamel and paint over that. This is what I bought originally, ESP, and then I went online and got a few reviews, and it said it was no good. So I took it back, and then I started just experimenting, well, researching really, and looking for other things. 3-in-1 Taubman's 3-in-1 was meant to be really good. People said that would paint well over enamel, but I decided to go with Dulux Precision, and it's a strong adhesive primer. It is water based, but it is fine on ultra slippery and glossy things. You can use it on fiberglass, steel, brick, tiles, highly glazed tiles, vinyl, PVC, aged enamels, and so I thought this would be perfect to use. I didn't particularly want an oil based undercoat, but what I did do before I started to paint was to sand back lightly all over the enamel that I was going to paint over, and then I gave it a good clean. I normally do use sugar soap to clean. I never had any, so I just used dishwashing liquid. I scrub it and wipe it off, and then I will spray water over it just to wipe off any residue. I needed to tape off where I want to paint and leave the legs. So what I did was I taped that off. I measured from the top, or the bottom, actually the top, the top, which is the bottom of the foot, down to where I wanted to put the masking tape, and I wanted the paint to look like it was going in a straight line, actually from where the middle panel was over the leg and just the base, just so it maybe looked like there were separate legs attached. But to make a crisp line, and I always get bleed through my masking tape, I'm just adding some matte medium and letting that set and dry, and that should create a nice crisp line, because it actually will seal in there, the masking tape, so no paint should get under that, hopefully. So now I'm applying the primer, the adhesive primer. It's actually a lot thinner than the Zinza. I use the Bullseye 123. That's quite thick, but this is quite thin, but it goes on really well, and I did 2 coats of that all in all. I did over the actual enamel paint that was on there. I decided to paint inside the drawer too. Just being one drawer, it was easy enough to do, and plus this drawer was pretty rough. It wasn't very nice timber, and I didn't want to sand that back. Just doing a scratch test, and it was really sturdy and solid, and it wasn't going anywhere. So now I started on the top coat, and I'm using Deco Style, which is an Aldi paint. I find this such a lovely paint. It covers really well. Surprisingly, it's cheap, but yeah, it does a really good job. And I go over it with the roller just to make it ultra smooth and extra smooth. But you can see here the difference between when I painted over the exposed wood and the enamel. I think I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 coats over the whole piece, but at that point at the top where the wood was exposed, I had to go over that 6 times, just at the top there, because it wasn't covering, and eventually it did, thankfully, but that was a bit of a problem. And so now I'm just removing the tape around the drawer. I'm going to whitewash this, but first I'm just going to sand back any paint that's bled through the tape there. Just use a fine sanding block to make the surface ultra smooth. And here I'm just making a whitewash that I'm going to wash the wood that I have sanded back. So it will be the wood on the front of the drawer, on the legs, and on the top of the piece. So you can see how nice and crisp this is here. There's no bleed through, and I always do get bleed through when I tape off with masking tape, but I think you can also use PVA glue to get the same effect as well, but I use the matte medium there. And now I'm just whitewashing the legs and the top. I like to spray the timber before I actually put the wash on. On this, because it was such a big piece and I was outside and it was windy, it did start drying. I probably should have done it in stages, but it turned out okay. I actually sprayed water on it as I was wiping it off too, so that helped as well. Yeah, but that's something I'll just have to keep in mind for the future. Now the front of the drawer, I wasn't sure what to do. I was thinking of this floral decal, and I thought that would have been pretty, but then I changed my mind because I was thinking of like a herringbone, but using the wood, and I thought, what if I combine like the herringbone idea but do it with a stencil? I went into Canva to try to find a design in Elements, but they never had one, so I made up my own. I didn't really like that one, so I did a different herringbone pattern. I exported it with a transparent background and I cut it out after I'd put it in the Cricut. So I was thinking that I might make the herringbone white with a wood background, but then I thought if I weeded out the background and made that white, it would look a bit like a grout, and then if I peeled off the vinyl, it would look like the actual wood, like the panels were wood. So I did that instead. Yeah, so I weeded it out. I applied the transfer tape, which I just use contact paper for that. Placed it on the front of the drawer, peeled the contact off, and then I painted it. I let it dry, and then I peeled off the actual vinyl, which exposed the wood. When I peeled off some of the vinyl, it did splinter the timber a little bit, and I think that's because I sanded it back really harshly with that 40 grit. So what I did was I just sanded the splintered part back to smooth it out, and actually I thought I'll just give it a bit of a distress. The paint never came off, it stuck really well, which is good because I didn't really want it to. Yeah, it's nice and smooth, and then I thought I'd go over it again with another bit of whitewash just to even it all out. Now it's time for the handle. I never had a handle that I really liked, and I was going to make like a bead type handle, which I might in the future, but I found this tassel. This was a tassel I had bought as a tassel garland from Kmart. They used to sell them. They were $5.50 for a pack, and I've used them for my cushions as well. I used it for this cushion, and they don't sell them anymore, unfortunately, because I wish they did. I would buy some more because you can use them for so many things. But yeah, I was thinking outside the box a little bit with this. I thought I'd make a handle, so I just thread some jute cord. There was a little loop in the top of the tassel, and I threaded it through that and then through the hole. What I thought I might have to do though was I used a little washer that I had left over from some Kmart handles, and I put that on the inside just to hold it in place when I tied the string. Otherwise I was afraid that once pulled it might pull through, but yeah, that seemed to work really well, and I just tied it in a bow. I guess you could always remove it too if it got grubby or anything like that, but to be honest, I don't think this drawer would get all that much use anyway. So the last step is waxing, putting the top coat on. I'm using my Glitz beeswax again, just applying with a damp rag, rubbing it in, letting it sit for about 15 to 30 minutes, and then going back and polishing it. Polishing it gives a lovely matte sheen, and even though it looks a bit darker here, it does dry lighter. I hope everyone enjoyed this video today. I really love it. I love the I love the faux herringbone look, but I'm also pleased that I now know how to paint over enamel. It's not such a big deal as well, and hopefully it will stand the test of time. Thank you guys for watching today, and I'll see you all next time in my upcoming video. Have a great week, and bye for now.
The way you look at me makes me crazy. I've been thinking about you too much lately. Takes me a second to get back down to reality. Do you ever think about what could be? Give me a second, let's talk about it, baby. Trying to get things into place, don't have to run, it's not a race. We'll be okay if I say we will be. Let's take a chance, maybe. You'll be surprised with what you see. Let's take a chance, maybe. You'll be surprised, you'll be surprised, you'll be surprised. Take my hand.